phosphate of zinc, lead minerals, fish flour, synthetic cables, fresh grapes, and cocoa beans. Here I may also mention that Peru is the sixth largest producer of gold and the second largest producer of silver. Not only trade, there is a strong investment ties and cooperation between the two countries. Indian companies have largely invested in the mining sector in Peru. Further, major Indian pharmaceutical companies have their representative offices or local subsidiaries in Peru, and Indian automobile firms like Bajaj Auto, TVS, Hero Motors, and Mahindra have local dealership for selling and servicing their motorcycles, three-wheelers, pickups, and SUVs. Similarly, many mining services companies of Peru have set up operations in India. Friend, concerted efforts have been made in recent years and are being made by India to strengthen the business climate and encourage investment in trade. And these have helped to attract investment in trade and also help to contain external vulnerabilities. We have brought our corporate tax rate to a very attractive level of 15%, which is one of the best in Asia. And this will be the encouragement for the companies who are looking into investing in India. Relevant reforms have included the new bankruptcy code, the national goods and service tax. These have helped to gain in India doing business ranking, moving up rapidly in the World Bank's ease of doing business index up to 63 in 2020 from 100 in 2018. However, there is a need to rebuild strong ties between India and Peru from trade and cultural perspective. The two countries have the great potential to take it to the next level. To achieve this, government of both sides are working sincerely on this. Both sides have agreed on negotiation for a comprehensive trade agreement. Following completion of a joint study on feasibility of a trade agreement in September 2016, the trade negotiations were commenced in August 2017. Besides liberalizing trade in goods and services, so with these words, I'll just pass on this to the moderator and he can take it forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for sharing the valuable insights and also the perspective from both trade and investment perspective. Thank you very much. May I now invite His Excellency Mr. Mandarapu Subbarayudu, Ambassador, Embassy of India, Peru, for his keynote address. Before I invite him for his address, I would just like to apprise the participant about his brief profile. His Excellency Ambassador Mandarapu Subbarayudu joined the Indian Foreign Service in 1994 and has more than 26 years of rich and vast experience. He has served in various capacities, both at headquarters and abroad. He has earlier served as at India's diplomatic mission in Jakarta, Warsaw, Rome, and Dhaka, and handled political, economic, and commercial and cultural and information work. He has also served as Consul General of India at Perth in Western Australia. His earlier stints at the Ministry of External Affairs, New Delhi, includes that of Deputy Secretary in the Central Europe Division and Joint Secretary in charge of Development Partnership Administration. Mr. Subbarayudu holds a Bachelor of Technology degree in Civil Engineering and a Master's degree in Geotechnical Engineering. In the present capacity, Ambassador Subbarayudu is making all his efforts in enhancing trade and economic ties between India and Peru. May I now request His Excellency for his keynote address, please. Sir.
Thank you, Ashish. Sri Mahesh Chandra KL, Vice President of the Federation of Indian Export Organizations. Sri Rohit Rao, President of INCHAM, the Indian Chamber of Commerce in Peru. Sri Suranjan Gupta, Executive Director of EEPC. Mr. Vinny Mehta, Director General of ACMA. Ms. Mariana Garland, President of Maquinarias. Mr. Manuel Origgi, Director of Trading Committee at RPN. Participants in India and Peru, ladies and gentlemen, namaste. Good evening to those in India and good morning to all others. A number of online business sessions, including a virtual buyer-seller meet, have taken place in recent months. I am delighted that today's interactive video conference is also focusing on trade and economic opportunities between India and Peru. It shows the importance we attach to this relationship. The initiative coming from FIEO, which is an apex body of export organizations in India, is commendable. I thank them for the same. Also, I would like to thank INCHAM, particularly Mr. Rohit Rao, for its sincere efforts to promote business ties between the two countries. As desired by our Indian participants, I will try to give a detailed account of situation in Peru, the status of India-Peru trade and economic ties, opportunities for cooperation, along with a possible way ahead post-COVID-19. Like India, Peru was among the countries that took early action and imposed complete lockdown in March. This controlled the rapid spread of virus and saved many lives. Reopening of economy has been done in phases starting from May, and the fourth phase is scheduled to come into effect from 1st of October. As a result, Peru's GDP growth rate fell by 16.66% in March and further sharply by 39.93% in April before gradually recovering to minus 11.71% in July. This year, the economy is expected to contract by 12%, but significantly recover next year. In fact, the Central Reserve Bank of Peru expects the country's economy to reach the pre-pandemic levels by 2022. The country's net foreign exchange reserves are at comfortable $74.88 billion, accounting for 36% of GDP, and the other macroeconomic parameters remain within limits. Given its sustained high performance in the past, Peru's economy is expected to recover from the current crisis. As a result of lockdown, Peru's global imports contracted by 21% to $21 billion in January to August this year, from $28 billion in the first 8 months of 2019. During this period, Peru's imports from 12 out of 13 top source countries registered a decline. Imports from India also contracted by 15%. Despite this, India has emerged as the 10th largest source of global imports for Peru from 13th position in the previous year. India is also currently the second biggest supplier of goods to Peru from Asia. India and Peru enjoy close and friendly ties marked by shared values of democracy, rule of law, and free market economy. Though remained multifaceted over several decades, the bilateral relationship started acquiring economic and business content since the year 2000. It was decided to commence the negotiations for concluding a trade agreement after a joint study group comprising experts from both countries conducted a detailed assessment as reflected in its joint feasibility report. The joint report had concluded that there was considerable potential to increase and diversify trade and take advantage of the complementarities that exist between the production structures of India and Peru. It identified sectors like infrastructure, mining and hydrocarbons, automotive industry, energy, agricultural products and food, tourism, healthcare and pharmaceuticals, clothing and textiles, etc. as possible areas for greater economic engagement to benefit from global value chains. This study also endorsed the feasibility of greater investment flows between the two countries. So far, as the Vice President of FIEO mentioned, 5 rounds of negotiations have been held, during which both sides made considerable progress, having exchanged their respective wish lists and held discussions on national treatment and market access for goods, cooperation, customs procedures and trade facilitation, dispute settlement, investment, sanitary and phytosanitary provisions. The 6th round is delayed because of the pandemic. Both sides are, however, keen to fast track the negotiations. Ladies and gentlemen, India remains the 7th largest global trading partner of Peru, and for India, Peru continues to be the 4th largest partner in Latin America. However, the full potential is yet to be realized. The top 20 items of India's exports to Peru include pharmaceutical products, textile products such as cotton yarn and textured polyester yarn, vehicles in different segments such as motorcycles, 3-wheelers, passenger vehicles, articles of iron and steel, and chemicals. Let me now go by product-wise. From being the 5th largest supplier of articles of iron and steel to Peru in 2019, India has climbed to 3rd position this year, taking our share from 5% to 9.8%. There is huge scope for improvement in this segment, including transmission towers and welded tubes. One of the most affected sectors due to COVID-19 related lockdown is automobiles, comprising vehicles and auto components. After contracting by over 60% in April to June, it is now recovering gradually. With the presence of Bajaj and TVS in motorcycle and 3-wheeler segment, India is a key player in Peruvian market. India is also a leading supplier of vehicles in less than 1000 cc bracket. There is a greater demand for motorcycles as they represented a viable alternative for public transport to mitigate the risk of contagion and good means of transport for delivery by restaurants and other businesses. We should step up supplies to match this heightened demand and sustain the existing market. More focus is also needed on bars and rods, angles, shapes and sections, and other products under the Harmonized Tariff Schedule, Chapter 72, covering iron and steel. Peru's pharmaceuticals market is growing with global imports valued at $963 million in 2019 after registering a 10% increase compared to 2018. Referring to health emergency created by COVID-19 pandemic, the leadership of Peru had observed that the crisis represented an opportunity to strengthen the response system. Accordingly, the government of Peru has prioritized upgradation of healthcare facilities in the country and wants to strengthen primary health centers. The next year's health budget of Peru is sought to be enhanced to 20 billion soles or $5.7 billion. As the 5th largest supplier with a market share of 7.5%, India is an important player in Peruvian pharma market. In first 8 months of this year, India's share has increased to 8.4%. The zero tariff on certain identified medicines declared by the Peruvian government is valid until 7th December 2020, and Indian suppliers could take this offer for increasing their exports. Indian pharma sector could consider augmenting supply of medicaments for therapeutic or prophylactic uses, vaccines, medicines for oncological and HIV treatment, and all other critical medicines. The $350 million medical devices market in Peru is expected to grow further. While India is not yet a key player in this segment, the medical device segment represents an opportunity for us. Response received during several business interactions held in recent months by EEPC, ASSOCHAM, FICCI, and INCHAM indicate existence of considerable market and interest. We see a demand for medical, surgical, and dental instruments, X-ray tubes, computed tomography, electrocardiographs, orthopedic appliances, artificial joints, infrared thermometers, syringes, tubular needles, oxygen, and respiratory apparatus. We had an expert level interaction on knowledge of traditional medicine earlier this month. The traditional medicines represent an area of convergence for India and Peru. As countries with ancient civilizational background, our two sides have inherited traditional wisdom which can be used for the well-being of current generation. This needs further work on both sides. Ladies and gentlemen, India's export of chemicals in 2019 increased by 13% from $31 million in 2018 to $35 million in 2019. India is the 8th largest supplier of organic chemicals to Peru. However, after significant contraction in India's exports during the lockdown months of April and May, India's exports are slowly recovering, with July exports registering an increase of 9% over July 2019. Naproxen sodium under HS code 2918, dyes and pigments under chapter 32, and other miscellaneous chemical products under chapter 38 offer export opportunities. India is the main supplier of cotton yarn to Peru with 33% market share. The quality of yarn imported from India complements the Peruvian requirements. While India's export of cotton yarn amounted to $140 million in 2019, there is a contraction in 2020 as the main market, Gamara in Lima, ceased its operations for 4 months, affecting exports from India. However, with the reactivation of economy, this segment is expected to do well in the last quarter of this year. Man-made staple fibers, where India is the 4th largest supplier to Peru, as well as articles of apparel and clothing, may be focus products. India's exports increased by 4% in 2019 in leather and footwear sector. A virtual buyer-seller meet held recently in association with Council of Leather Exports confirmed significant scope for partnerships for Indian suppliers. Apart from footwear, Indian suppliers may look at products such as bags and cases, wallets, belts and shoulder bags, as these items are showing encouraging trends in 2020. The information and communication technologies and electronics represent areas of opportunity for us. There is a rising demand in recent months for storage and memory units, including laptops, as the Peruvian industry is adapting to remote work and distance education. In June and July, the demand for these products had increased by 73% and 63% respectively. Indian suppliers may also look at digital processing units, portable digital automatic data processing machines, and telephones for cellular networks, which are among Peru's top items of global imports. The internal digital transformation in Peru needs emerging technologies like blockchain, Internet of Things, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc., where India has adequate expertise. Energy sector, especially renewable energy equipment like solar panels and plants, power generation equipment, and electrical machinery represent another area of good potential for India and Peru. India has acquired considerable expertise in solar energy. The two countries are also founding members of International Solar Alliance. Companies in both countries can take advantage of opportunities, including in rural electrification and transmission networks. India's agricultural exports accounted for $13 million in 2019, registering an increase of 24% over 2018. Items of export could include spices like cumin seeds, coriander seeds, crushed ginger, pepper, sesame seeds, food supplements, processed foods, Indian tea, animal feed, etc. Agricultural machinery and tools, farm equipment, and irrigation appliances, food processing units also enjoy market. In fact, we have some participants from Bolivia who are interested in our agricultural machinery. There are also other sectors where trade and business opportunities exist. These include customized vehicles, defense equipment and spares, plastics, rubber, and several other areas. There is a need for focused effort on the part of Indian exporters to fill the gaps created in supply chains. Timely action to supply goods would go a long way in consolidating trade and business partnerships for overall advantage. Going forward, Embassy is planning business interactions in chemicals and food and beverage sectors in coming months. We are also trying to organize, in collaboration with INCHAM, a webinar on services sector. In conclusion, let me reiterate that India and Peru are open, market-friendly, and growing economies with huge potential. The two economies share many complementarities and can add value to their economies by indulging in greater trade and economic engagement. India can be a reliable partner in supply and value chains for greater growth in Peruvian economy. The opportunities in post-COVID-19 call for new approaches and new methods of working. Let me stop at this. I look forward to further deliberations, and thank you.
Thank you, Excellency. Thank you very much for sharing such a detailed insights, I would call it, and also sharing with us the opportunities in various sectors. You have rightly said that there exist complementarities between India as well as Peru, and the need of today is to look for the change in the method and how to tap these business opportunities that are emerging. I'm sure the businessmen present today will take note of that and will start working on the aggressive marketing strategy to take advantage of the opportunities emerging. Also, I would like to thank you for sharing the useful information pertaining to pharmaceutical sector, wherein you have mentioned that the Peru has done a zero duty imports, and probably Indian companies should also take advantage till that that advantage is over, which I understand is till December. But also sharing us with various potential in the different sectors. I think the Indian industry needs to really look forward and work proactively in tapping these business opportunities. I'm sure the companies who will be present there may also like to have understand more on that. Probably that can be discussed during the Q&A session. Thank you very much for such a vital, useful, and valuable information with Indian businessmen. Thank you very much, sir. May I now invite Mr. Suranjan Gupta, who is an Executive Director of Engineering Export Promotion Council, one of the council who is totally focusing on promoting engineering export from the country. Mr. Suranjan Gupta.
Thank you, Ashish. Your Excellency, Mr. Subbarayudu, Vice President FIEO, Mr. Mahesh Kayal, Mr. Rohit Rao, President of INCHAM, Mariana Garland, President of Mercurius, and Director General of ACMA, Mr. Vinny Mehta. Let me thank FIEO for giving us an opportunity to share a few thoughts on the engineering-trade relationship. And it's going to be a very broad bird's-eye view on some of the issues that have already been raised by Mr. Kayal and the ex-ambassador. Very comprehensive presentations by both. With that, let me sort of show you a few slides which we've prepared just to give an idea about what the issues are. Give me a minute, sir. Evento. I hope the slide is visible to you, sir.
Yes, sir. It is visible.
Yeah. So let me straight away go to the engineering sector. And by engineering sector is roughly about 20 ITCHS chapters, beginning from 72 to really 1991. And of course, we are not including electronics and the telecom products because those are not covered by our council. And as this data shows that the bilateral trade on the engineering goods side, India has a trade surplus. But, as the ambassador also mentioned, and Vice President Shri Kayal also mentioned, the potential is huge. As you can see, even compared to the exports that is happening in the entire LAC region, exports to Peru is hovering between 10 to 12% in the last 5 years or so. In case of imports, it's even lower. And hence, as my earlier speakers have spoken, that for a strengthened relationship, there has to be more mutual trade, and it is only through that we can progress. So that's an issue that we need to look forward to in the new paradigm that we are working in. Broadly, the composition of both of export as well imports are given here. It matches with what has been said by earlier speakers. Even though these are in percentage terms, they may look large, but in terms of the absolute numbers, they're not very great numbers. It's essentially motor vehicles, cars, and products of iron and steel, which is chapter 73, which are the dominant ones so far as exports are concerned. With regard to imports, it's primarily copper and a little bit of iron and steel, but the percentages look very high. but it is less than 2%. It's less than about $2 million. Now, to look at the three segments that have been given to us, and I'll concentrate on iron and steel to begin with. As you can see, that India's share in not only the entire exports that India does is very small to Peru. Ferroalloys, for instance, where in fact Vice President of FIEO, Mr. Mahesh Chandra Kayal, himself is a large exporter of ferroalloys. So therefore he himself should be exporting more to Peru. And there is a huge opportunity there, given the fact that India does export a lot to the world. Similarly, with regard to about 9 to 10 billion exports that we do of iron and steel annually, our share to Peru is very little. I believe that there are certain issues like logistic costs and the freight rates, and the fact that the transit time is quite large for these exports. That is one of the inhibiting factors. Similarly, if you can look the import partners of Peru also, India's share is very little, about 1%. But if other countries can do it, we should also be able to do it. But there are certain issues that one needs to look into. And one of them, as already been discussed, is the fact that we don't have an FTA. I'll come to that very briefly later. With regard to product of iron and steel, here too again, as you will see that India exports about $7 billion globally, and our share is about 1%. India ranks, in fact, 12th in the global export of these products, but it has a very little share in terms of export share even globally. So that is one area where we need to look at. One of the problems that products of iron and steel that India faces and Indian exporters face is the fact that, and that EPC has been discussing a lot with the Ministry of Steel and the Department of Commerce, is the domestic prices of steel is generally higher than the world prices, and there are a couple of reasons. So as a result of that, what happens is that if your raw material costs are very high, your value added cost becomes very low. Your value addition becomes that much compressed. Therefore, you are effectively out-competed in the global markets. So it is just not for the iron and steel, but other downstream products also. So that is one factor which is a domestic challenge that our exporters face. And we are looking at various options. Even today, over the last couple of years, even during the period of lockdown, for instance, one of the major exports in the engineering sector that India has been doing is in the iron and steel, because even during the complete lockdown period, it was the continuous process manufacturing that was allowed. And therefore, Indian steel majors had actually had production, but it was essentially of semis, that is things like, ingots and billets and so on. And that were being exported out because there was no domestic demand. And since once the complete lockdown moved in and we started opening up, if you see the figures of India's exports in the month of August, for instance, our exports of iron and steel, of semis in particularly, has come down and has dropped substantially. So once the domestic price issue is settled, so far as the Article 72 prices are concerned, we should see the products of iron and steel making far more bigger dents in world markets, including Peru. Automobile and parts. I will leave the parts for my colleague, Director General of ACMA. He will do a far better job so far as auto parts are concerned. In fact, the auto components that you see are essentially which involve the base metal. ACMA will, of course, include a wider range of HS tariff codes because they will be including plastics and glass and so on products which of auto part. And as the ambassador mentioned, and FIEO Vice President also mentioned that this is one area where motor vehicles in 1920 it was about $140 million US dollars that we exported to Peru, but it's less than 2% of Peru's imports, and hence there is a huge potential to tap this segment as well. Here too, again, there are all kinds of issues that is affecting. One of it I'll just briefly touch. This is something that has been raised with us earlier, but I'd like to get a feedback on that as well. Here is the list of Peruvian free trade agreements. I thought I'll just show it as to why it's very important that India works on a free trade agreement or a comprehensive trade agreement, including services, and also having to deal with things like, having mutual recognition agreements also, because there are issues of technical standards which become a major problem for Indian exporters. So just to give you a flavor of the kind of FTAs that Peru has done and the different years that is there. And this is where, why Indian exporters often, apart from the fact that there are logistical issues, there are freight issues, which is a problem. Currently, Indian exporters are facing, even container shortages. And the freight rates have jumped up substantially. So these are some of the issues where, the farther the geographical distances, the cost of exporting becomes more larger. And therefore, it's very important to have FTAs with countries like Peru, where both of us can mutually benefit. This is what the FTA thing has already been discussed. And, I think we are stalled at the 6th round, and we hope that this goal, this is speeded up, because Peru is an emerging country, and therefore, there is a huge potential that is there, and we need to take up and discuss issues of non-tariff measures that both sides, as has become, its protectionism has again come back into flavor, and that is where that is the reason why FTAs needed to be done, especially with very similar countries of industrialization. So we need to have early warning systems, we need to have fast-track resolution mechanisms, and also, if required, have Peruvian labs and quality checks in India, as also those in Peru as well, so that, the barriers, the non-tariff barriers can be reduced, because engineering is one segment where this is a major issue that inhibits bilateral trade. I give you one example where, where Peru and the FTA can play a major role, and that is the Indian effort for electrical vehicles. Recently, there were media reports that India plans to offer USD 4.6 billion in incentives to companies setting up advanced battery manufacturing facility to promote electrical vehicles and cut down dependence on oil. It is here, given the kind of the discovery of lithium resources in Peru, this could be a major area where both of us can gain, and therefore these are some of the innovative areas where, as technologies change, as we become far more environmentally conscious, this is where the two countries can play a supporting role to each other. Some of the strategies to boost export between India or trade between India and Peru, that is extending trade agreements, promoting trade facilitation, promoting trade and investment, and of course reducing transportation and logistics costs. There are no direct shipping lines. China, for instance, it takes the Pacific and just gets into and can export right up to the Latin American countries. So that's a major issue that is inhibiting our exporters as well. We did a strategy paper with Deloitte, and Deloitte has been saying that these are some of the products where just not Peru, but other countries, Colombia, for instance. With Chile, we have a PTA, but we need to extend that as well. So these are some of the countries where the strategy paper of Deloitte identified the products where there is a huge potential. And as Ambassador mentioned about transmission line towers having a major issue, that has also been mentioned here. So project exports is one area where India is very good at, and Peru can benefit of the expertise that is there. Similarly, some of the project segments that the ambassador mentioned is also identified by the Deloitte paper. And this is an opportunity for us to work together. And with an dynamic ambassador that is there, we have, I'm sure, some progress can be made in this area. Very briefly, some of the issues that have been mentioned. I do not know if this is a problem. This problem still exists, which is, apparently for registration of taxi, there should be a minimum engine capacity of 1248 cc. And that apparently is one issue with our exporters are saying that smaller vehicles are actually greener and more efficient and should also be displayed. Some of the other issues that I've already mentioned about the transaction costs, the high transportation costs, and of course, the general lack of awareness also amongst exporters that there is a huge potential in Latin American countries, and we need to take this opportunity. We have been into Peru in 2016-17, as also in 15-16. Then we recently did with the embassy also, we did a webinar on medical devices, exactly to the point that the Excellency Ambassador was mentioning of the huge scope there. So with that, I'll conclude my session. Thank you very much for giving me this opportunity.
Thank you, Mr. Gupta. Thank you for sharing various opportunities as well as the challenges, particularly in the focus sectors. You have rightly said that the need of an hour is to go for a free trade agreement, which the government from both sides are anyhow working for that. And as Ambassador Sir has mentioned, that the sixth round of negotiation was to be held, but because of the COVID-19, it could not happen. But I'm sure the government of both sides would take heed of the challenges as well as the issues which are being raised by the EPC as well as other exporters, and will try to sort them out as soon as possible to bridge the gap and also to avail the opportunities that are emerging. Thank you very much. May I now request Mr. Vinny Mehta, who is the Director General of ECMA, Automotive Component Manufacturing Association, one of the largest associations dealing in this sector, for his address and presentation, sir.
Thank you, Ashish. Once again, a very good morning to you, Excellency, and good evening to everybody who's logged in from India, especially the dignitaries who are here. Also, a good morning to the dignitaries who are logged in from Peru's side. I will talk to you about the automotive industry. And before I begin, let me thank Excellency for a very comprehensive overview on trade between India and Peru. And of course, we are very, very happy that the automotive trade is very significant. In fact, is one of the dominant trade items between our two countries. It's just not Peru, but in fact, the entire LATAM market is very important for India. And just to give you a perspective, in the last few years, 4 million two-wheelers have been exported to LATAM, 1 million three-wheelers, and 1 million passenger vehicles. This, in fact, on an average accounts for 28% of the vehicle export to the LATAM region, around 3.2 billion annually. When I come specifically to Peru, Sayali, you can have that slide on, not an issue. I will tell you when to change. Specifically to Peru, when we come to it, Peru accounts for almost 500,000 of two-wheeler exports from India, another 500,000 of three-wheelers, and a few thousand of cars, passenger vehicles. Largely in India, we call this brand as Suzuki Alto, which the Excellency referred to as cars that are less than 1000 cc. And of course, there are about 150 Indian companies that are invested in the LATAM regions from the automotive perspective, including some of them very active in Peru, include Bajaj, TVS, Hero, Motocorp, Suzuki, of course, Tata Motors, Mahindra and Mahindra, among others. So maybe let me now give you a perspective. Sally, could you kindly change to the next slide, please? Yeah, very quickly on the ACMA, those of you who are not aware of us, we are the apex body of the component industry. We represent 85% of the industry by its turnover. We have more than 850 members spread across the country. Of course, we represent the organized sector. Can you do the next, please? Yeah, this is a map of India for our friends from Peru who are not well aware of India. And as you see, we have more than 50 vehicle manufacturers in the country. Those that are marked in red are companies that are not of Indian origin. There are MNC companies invested in India. And the spread of the vehicle industry, I would say there are three major hubs: the north of India, the south of India, the west of India. And east is somewhat laggard because of various economic, socio-economic factors. There are just about 2 odd OEMs out of the east, but the rest of the country has a very significant presence of vehicle manufacturers. And in the backyard of the vehicle manufacturer, there is a very thriving the auto component base. So this, I just wanted to leave you with a feel of the map of India and where all the automotive bases are. Can you change it to the next, please? Just to give you an understanding of where we are in terms of our vehicles, in terms of our global ranking. We are world's largest tractor manufacturer. We are world's largest two-wheeler manufacturer. We are second largest bus manufacturer, third largest heavy truck manufacturer, fourth largest car manufacturer. In fact, if the COVID hadn't struck us this time, probably we would have improved upon some of the rankings where we are not in #1 position. In fact, the car manufacturing would have moved to #3 position. Of course, this is in terms of the number of units we manufacture, not in terms of the value. Can we do the next slide, please? So this is a chart of how the vehicle, the passenger vehicle production has progressed over the years. In the year 1819, which was probably the best year for the vehicle industry, we made more than 4 million passenger vehicles. And 1920 was a downturn year for us in the vehicle industry. There were many, many factors, including a lot of the regulations. There were 40 new regulations that were introduced onto the vehicle industry, and this had an impact on the vehicle pricing. Also, there were some erratic monsoons, being an agricultural country. It had its impact on the overall economy as well as consumption of vehicles. So consumption of vehicles fell from 4 million units to somewhere 3.5 million units. Of course, as in Peru, where Excellency mentioned that in the first quarter, the vehicle industry came down by about 60%. It is not too different for India as well. But the good news is that as we sit in September today, in fact, we are almost ending September, schedules for vehicle manufacturing, especially for tractors, especially for two-wheelers, for passenger vehicles, they have come back to the pre-COVID level. The commercial vehicle schedules are yet to come back. There are some regulatory challenges which created much more capacity for the commercial vehicle industry. We believe it will take some more time for the commercial vehicle to come back, but at this juncture, keeping fingers crossed, the production has resumed back to the pre-COVID levels, and which is very, very heartening for us. Can we do the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is how, the passenger vehicle typically is a bellwether. That's why we kept a separate slide. But this is how it looks for the rest of the industry in terms of the commercial vehicles industry, which is the passenger and goods carrier. We clocked close to 800,000 units. For the two-wheeler industry, which we have a very significant presence in Peru, our numbers are astoundingly 22 million units, and they came down from 25.7 million units in the previous year. The two-wheeler numbers, as I said, are once again back, and some of the companies are making to the tune of 30,000 units per day. So, I mean, sometimes these numbers are very difficult to believe, but this is what India is all about. It's all about numbers. Tractors, again, close to 800,000 units. And of course, construction vehicles, the numbers are relatively small, just about 75,000 units. Can we change to the next, please? Yeah, very quickly, a snapshot on the commercial vehicle, on the auto component industry. The overall vehicle industry turnover stands somewhere close to about $100 billion, and the component industry is almost half of it, stands close to $49 billion. Contribution to the GDP is about 2.5%, and the overall vehicle industry creates employment for about 37 million people. The component industry does it for about 5 million people. Of course, 5 million is a direct employment, and about, if you were to take another, I mean, the number of unemployment, the number of people who are on contract and are secondary employment in this sector would be as much as another 5 million people. Can we do the next, please? So just to give you a perspective on the performance of the component industry, which I come from, our turnover clocked around 50 billion units, 50 billion US dollars. It came down from 57 billion in 1890, and that's a drop of about 12%. Can we do the next, please? Yeah, so this is a profile of the industry on what we produce and who our customers are. So when you look at the pie to the right-hand side, this is where our revenue comes from. So passenger vehicles, by and large, account for the most significant portion of our turnover, which is 45% of the 50 billion US dollars. Two-wheelers account for a fifth, whereas the commercial vehicle accounts for another quarter. And if you look at what we produce, of course, engine components account for more than a quarter of our production, followed by suspension and braking, which is about 15%. Body and chassis is about 14%. Drive transmission is about 13%. Electrical and electronics, 12%. So, in fact, we are capable of manufacturing and exporting any and every component of a vehicle, whether it is a two-wheeler, whether it is a passenger car, whether it is a commercial vehicle, whether it is a tractor. And the growing presence of the Indian vehicles in LATAM and in Peru is actually supporting and fueling our exports to the region. Can we do the next, please? So just to give you a perspective on the export, in 1920, we exported 14.5 billion US dollar. It came marginally down from the $15.2 billion that we exported in 1890. Of course, LATAM does not feature in among the top markets as yet, but these are potential markets, and as the Excellency gave us a perspective on the free trade agreement being discussed, we thoroughly support the government on this, and we believe should the free trade agreement come through, it will be a big benefit to our exports, not just to Peru, but also we look at Peru as a gateway to the entire LATAM region. Can we do the next slide, please? Yeah, so this is, I would leave this presentation with you as well, but this is a region-wise depiction of the export, also a country-wide depiction of export. So LATAM still does not contribute very much, but as I said, it has a huge potential. And within LATAM, as of now, we see Brazil and Mexico together accounting for close to $1 billion worth of our export. Next, please. Yeah, of course. We are a growing industry, so export and import go together. This is a slide on the import. So while we exported 14.5 billion, our import is 15.4 billion. We continue to be a net import industry. To the next slide, please. Yeah, so that was a very, very quick perspective on the overview of the vehicle and the component industry. And we will continue to redouble our efforts in terms of continuing our export to the LATAM and to Peru. And of course, with a very dynamic ambassador and the embassy, we look forward to their support. Also, we organize a reverse buyer sellers meet. This is traditionally supported by the Ministry of Commerce. And this time, because of the pandemic situation, we are going virtual. This will be from the 25th to the 29th of November. We will send more details to Excellency and the embassy, and we will request them to popularize this event amongst our friends in Mexico, in Peru. And hopefully we will have a very good participation from them. So with this, I close my presentation, and I'll be very happy to answer the questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mehta. Thank you very much for sharing your valuable information related to Indian automobile and auto component industry. Also sharing the various existing potential as well as the future possibilities of further enhancing our trade. You rightly said that Peru can be a gateway to whole of LAC region. And I'm sure that with the concerted efforts of all, we will see more push of these product categories in the LAC region in future. Thank you very much. May I now request Mr. Rohit Rao, who is the president of INCHAM, for his address. INCHAM is the binational India-Peru Chamber of Commerce, which is a non-profit organization that works to enhance the economic relationship in trade, investment and tourism between Peru and India since 2013. INCHAM Peru main objective is to bridge between Peruvian and Indian companies for developing business partnership, aim to increase, strengthen and diversify their relation for mutual benefit. Mr. Rohit, please.
Yeah, hi, good morning, everybody. In Peru, good evening in India. Thank you, our great ambassador, Mr. Subbarayudu, for giving us the chance to organize this event, which is definitely very important for all of us. Thank you, Mr. Kale, Mr. Gupta, and Mr. Mehta for your presentation. Well, we know that India is a bit far. We know India has got his lot of initial problems for logistics, but there are a lot of things which Indian companies can really understand Peru very fast and see how they can use Peru as a hub for getting into a lot of Latin countries, Central American countries, and a lot of other countries which Peru has got an FTA already signed. I mean, we know ideal situation is that the FTA is signed tomorrow. All the business communities from Peru as well as India want this to be signed tomorrow, but it's not going to happen. It's going to take its own time, and unfortunately, due to this pandemic, is going to take more time than expected. But there is something which we Indians can do in Peru. Definitely, especially in iron and steel, especially in your auto parts, Mr. Mehta, we can tell your people, you can use Peru as a hub because there are a lot of good injection molding machines, a lot of good blow molding machines, a lot of good small factories, manufacturers of parts they can make in Peru. Some sort of a fill finish, some sort of a joint venture, where INCHAM definitely can help you to locate all these people. And you can export from Peru to all the region at zero tax. That means you just have to interchange your molds, send to Peru, get it injected, blow molded, or get the metallic parts done, the tail lights, headlights, auto parts there are. Peru's like India. I mean, you go, you find a lot of small manufacturers, a lot of small guys who can solve any problem in your car. I mean, if there's a headlight, tail light, whatever problem you have. And the main part of Peru is goods reach Brazil in 2 days. Goods reach Mexico in 3 days. Colombia, all these countries nearby, it's logistically extremely well located. So India can really take this advantage of this type of investment program, which the government, both governments are looking forward to it, and take this big advantage. And definitely there's lot of business opportunities. Don't look Peru as one market, please. Look Peru as a hub. Peru can give you access to more than billions of dollars of market in Latin America and as well as Europe, as well as USA. Because today Peru, goods to Miami reach in 10 days, 12 days, and Peru's got FTA, totally FTA signed with the US. So all these auto parts and small parts, you can take advantage today. Please don't wait for it tomorrow. As they say, do what can be done tomorrow, do it today. So all these things are possible to do in Peru, and a lot of companies are like Indians, straightforward, simple people who like to do business, who like to understand each other. I mean, we here as INCHAM can give you a fantastic bridge. I mean, we can really get people in together and get your things done. So don't forget, India has sold a lot of tractors, lot of machines to Latin America, to the US, as you rightly said, Mr. Mehta. I'm going to point to you because you're the man who's going to do business today. Other people may take some more time, but your companies can start business fast, and all these spare parts can be done here, can be manufactured with your mold, with your technology. And in Peru's got everything. I'm sure very soon Manuel is going to present all the raw material available in Peru, and Mariana is going to inform you what is going to happen to the public transport. I mean, it was not easy for me to get Mariana because she's very busy. I thank very much Mariana. She's president of a huge corporation. Plus, she's the president of IF, that is Association Empress Family Arrangements. All the family companies, she presides that. And Mimi has also got a lot of important things to inform. I don't want to take much of your time, but I would really appreciate Indian companies, the big, the small, the medium, to look as a different market. Don't look Peru as only 32 million people. Look Peru as 30 million people who can work for you, who can really understand what it is and see where you can go. So with that, I really thank you very much, Ashish, for giving the opportunity, and I'd like to give back the microphone back to you. If you please continue with the chat. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Rao. Thank you very much for sharing, the useful information, particularly related to Peruvian people and the complementarities that exist between India and Peru. You have rightly said that the need of an hour is to do it now. Attitude that needs to build up. We should not be waiting for too many of the things. We should start working. We should start exploring the opportunities that are emerging, and we should be more aggressive in our approach. You have also rightly said that Peru should not be considered as only as a one country. It should be used as a hub to enhance trade to the other emerging market and the potential market in the LAC region, and also to the other parts of the world. Thank you very much. I think companies present today have taken note of that, and probably they would also be looking forward to your support and cooperation in entering into the Peruvian and the other markets. Thank you very much. Friends, may I now request Ms. Mariana Garland for her address, please. Ms. Mariana Garland is the president of Maquinarias. Maquinarias is located in Lima, Peru, and is a part of the wholesale sector industry with more than 60 years of experience. They offer market vehicles of recognized brands, the best after-sale service, sale of spare parts, bodywork and painting, financial intermediation, vehicle recapture, vehicle insurance, sale of vehicles for business activities and heavy machinery. Ms. Mariana Garland is also the president of the Association of Family Businesses of Peru, AEF, a very strong association of Peru. Ms. Mariana, please.
Thank you very much. Honorable Ambassador of India in Peru and Bolivia, President of INCHAM, Mr. Rohit Rao, members of the Indian Chamber of Commerce, ladies and gentlemen, dear friends, good morning. Yes, I am Mariana Garland, shareholder and member of the board of Maquinarias, a holding company with more than 60 years in Peruvian automotive market. Our group is also present in other industries, such as collective funds to finance cars and housing, insurance, construction, mining, and tunneling as main interests. Actually, I am also president of the Peruvian Business Family Association, focused on developing and share best practices among our members, as well as being strong reference of Peruvian family-owned business, one of the main engines of our national economy. Thank you for inviting me to talk about our beautiful country and to share with you my views on the automotive market in Peru. The Peruvian economy has experienced two distinct phases of economic development since the turn of the century. Between 2002 and 2013, Peru was one of the fastest growing countries in Latin America, with an average GDP growth rate of 6% annually. Strong growth in employment and income reduced poverty rates from 52% in 2005 to 26% in 2013. Between 2014 and 2019, GDP growth slowed to an annual average rate of 3%, mainly due to lower international commodity prices. This led us to a temporary reduction in private investment, less fiscal income, and a slowdown in consumption. The COVID-19 pandemic will most likely send the economy into a recession by the end of 2020, with a 12% decrease of our GDP. The extent of this impact will depend on how long the crisis lasts and the government response. Additionally, unprecedented measures to stem the spread of the virus, which included the temporary closing of the country's borders and a nationwide quarantine, will lead to a significant decline in private consumption, particularly for services such as restaurants, transportation, and trade. The government has developed a comprehensive economic relief and aid program to protect the vulnerable population and support companies, including measures to protect income, defer tax payments, and provide credit guarantees for the private sector. Given the probable temporary nature of the COVID-19 shock, the economy is expected to experience a strong recovery in 2021. The current tendencies indicate that at the end of this year, we would be selling around 120,000 vehicles and recovering pre-COVID levels by 2021 at approximately 180,000 vehicles sold. Looking ahead, our economy is expected to stabilize at rates near those observed during the pre-crisis period. The challenge for Peruvian economy is to accelerate the change in GDP while promoting shared prosperity. My last remarks would be that we believe that 2020 is a world crisis year in which we have to survive, just as Mr. Jack Ma said recently. Peru is a developing country in which you will find all kinds of opportunities. Peruvian people are hardworking and aspirational individuals that will solve their problems with their own efforts, as proven in many occasions before. Right now, transformation is a fundamental part of all industries. Peruvians have accelerated digital commerce, which is a great opportunity for all types of companies from abroad to invest in Peru. New forms to deliver goods and services to customers have generated great demand for motorcycles and other kinds of vehicles to satisfy that additional demand. My dream is to create a new Peru as a regional hub for important industries. Why not come to invest to create such industries in South America, such as Mr. Rohit just said? Peru is in the right memento to continue its growth, which started in the 1990s. We overcame 2008 crisis and we are sure that we will overcome COVID crisis as well in 2021, year in which we will celebrate our bicentennial Independence Day. Thank you very much for your attention, and now back to you, Mr. Kashikar. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Mariana. Thank you for wonderful information, sharing the economic situation as well as particularly related to automotive market in Peru. I must say that you are spearheading large number of organizations and really making concerted efforts in all the streams. And I must compliment you for your efforts. And I'm sure with the dynamic persons like you in spearheading various organizations, the country will definitely come out and will be in the survival and will continue to be in the momentum. So I'm very thankful to you for your wonderful words as well as the information, and looking forward to more of such information during our Q&A session. Thank you for your presence. May I now Namaste. May I now request Mr. Manuel Origgi, who's the Director of Committee of Trading of RIN, for his address. Mr. Origgi is a business administrator from University of Lima, specialist in foreign trade, CEO of Gemar Group, company with presence in 5 continents and with annual revenues over $50 million. Mr. Origgi, please.
Thank you very much. Good morning in Peru and good evening in India. My name is Manuel Origgi. I am, as you said, director of the trading committee of the International Business Network, Red Internacional de Negocios, RIN. And also I am CEO of Zymer Group. Zymer is a trading company specialized in international business with more than 20 years in the market, representing well-known manufacturers and trading companies around the world. We allocate basically raw materials for different industries, such as painting, mining, textiles, construction, food and packing, and others. I want to share with you some experiences based on our time working with India, and based on it, some business opportunities that I think we have between Peru and India. In the last several years, we have done business on chemical products. For example, we have worked with Nirma, which is a big producer of LAB. LAB, linear alkyl benzene, is a raw material for making detergents. Nirma is a very strong company there. And besides LAB, we have done pigments for paint industry, where India is very strong too, for the paints. Dryers, which are also kind of additives for the paint industry. We have done that with India too. And we have done also plastics like PET. Reliance is a very big producer on India. PET is a plastic resin for making plastic bottles for water and carbonated drinks. That's a very big industry here. And currently we're importing from India, but also from other countries. And I think there is a very good opportunity on that for India. Besides PET, there is also a very good opportunity we have done before, is P, PP, and PS. It's polyethylene, polypropylene, and polystyrene. I mean, for plastics, I think there is a very good opportunity working with India, because India is a big player in the world, together with South Korea and USA, for example. And I think there is a good opportunity there for working on resins. It's a very big industry here also in Peru for importing and producing products like plastic bags, containers, houseware products, and others. Another product that I have experience with India is master batch, which is a kind of resin charged with additives and colors for the plastic industry also. India is very strong on coloring, pigment for paints, and master batch for plastics. We have also done some chemicals on the food industry, where India also, I think, is very strong. Another field that we have experienced is on the steel products, iron steel products. We have done with India some long steels like wire rod, which are used for construction industry and also for industries like mattress springs. Making the springs, we use a wire rod. Also, India is strong on tubes, pipes, which are used mainly on the construction, oil and gas industries. beams for the construction, valves. I think there are a lot of opportunities there. Also, you also produce flat steel like hot and cold rolled coils, sheet and plates, and also they are used for industrial and construction projects. And also, I think there is a good chance on tin plates, especially for packing of food products like canned food, and industrial products like for the paint industry, for the packing. I think for steel, there is a very good potential. Peru is currently mainly importing, as it was said before, from China and South Korea. And India, I think, should be a very strong player for Peru because of your industry on steel. Another industry where we have experience is textile. We have been importing fibers like polyester staple fiber, which is used for making different fabrics and mixes together with cotton. There are also imports of yarn and fabrics. On fabrics, there are finer products for clothing, but also for fabrics for making the mattress coverings. There is also a good industry there. India, I think, could be a good player. Currently, imports are coming from Turkish and China, but I think India can be also a very good competitor there. The last industry that we have experience on is food products. I find very good opportunities in processed vegetables and spices coming from India to Peru, such as dehydrated onions, garlic, curcuma, cinnamon, sesame seeds, and many other products that we consume in Peru, and I think you are also strong there. However, I want to mention a couple of points based on my experience. I have identified some strong and weak points importing from India for your consideration. The strong points, for sure, is a good quality and a competitive price. Those are two topics, two main issues from importing from India. And but I can also identify some weak points that can be easily overcome. The first point is the transit time. Compared to other countries where Peru is importing from, like China, South Korea, and Europe, and of course, States is even closer, the transit time is less than 30 days, while coming from India can be 45 days. Of course, this can be solved with a long-term schedule or long-term contract with the customers, but it's a point, something that we need to point out. And the other issue that I have faced in the past is the payment terms. When we talk about raw materials, most, not all, but most of the top importers of raw materials, like chemicals, in some cases steel and other plastics, they work with open credit. Of course, under or using an international insurance company, but most of the other countries, they are doing this kind of direct credit. And for India, sometimes it's a little difficult. So I also think it's important to consider that for special products, especially raw materials, in order to be competitive with the other countries. As for the exports from Peru to India, in my experience, I want to share with you a couple of industries that I think also have a very good potential. The first of it is of foods. Peru is a big producer of fruits, vegetables, and seafood, having a big variety of products, which I think would be of high interest in India. You know, Peru is a very big producer of fruits like avocado, mangoes, grapes, and others. We are exporting some of them to India, but I think we can make more than what we are doing now in terms of food. And on the other side is the metals. Peru is a big player in the world on mining, production of mining, products and metals. Let me share with you just a very little presentation. Let me see. Just a very short presentation of the mining industry in Peru and what I think we can do with India. First, I want to share with you very short some numbers. So as you can see, the population of Peru, over 32 million, just to have a better idea of the position of Peru in Latin America. In South America, after Brazil and Argentina, we are one of the longest or the highest population country in Latin America or in South America, especially. Income per capita, inflation rate, as you can see, is very small. We have a very small inflation rate in the last years. The total land area, you can see also, we have a big country compared to the surrounding countries in Latin America too. Then, as I mentioned, Peru is a very big player, not just in Latin America, but in the world on the mining and metals. So I want you to share, I want you to see this information about the ranking of Peru in Latin America and the world on the mining industry. As you can see, Peru is the first producer and exporter of gold in Latin America, and we are number 6 in the world. In the case of copper and silver, we are, in the case of copper, we are the second producer and exporter in Latin America and the world too, just after Chile. In silver, we are the second producer and exporter and the second in the world as well. Zinc, we are number 1 in Latin America and the second exporter in the world. In the case of lead and tin, also, we are first producer and exporter in Latin America, number 3 and 4 in the world. Then you can see molybdenum, cadmium, and phosphate rock. We are number 2 in Latin America and between the top 11 in the world. Then we have other metals like diatomite, indium, kyanite, and selenium. We are the first producer and exporter in Latin America and the top 10 in the world. So as you can see, Peru is a very big player, and of course we can do much more than what we are doing with India currently. And the third point I want to share with you is something that was mentioned before. It's about the trade agreements. We have a lot of agreements with different countries, multilateral agreements, old agreements already, and we have regional agreements, as it was said before. We have no import taxes working with Mercosur or the South America, Pacific, and other countries as well, and bilateral agreements with different countries. But besides this, I want to mention that Peru is a kind of special, or they have a special or unique rule. Since more than 10 years ago, we have a duties exemption, no import tax for many raw materials, no matter coming from different, no matter coming from any country. For example, in chemicals, we have raw materials for paints or plastics or for steel. We have also some products that are coming from India or can come from Russia, States, or China, and they don't pay any import duties, zero, for raw materials that we don't produce in Peru. So that makes Peru a very competitive on price, but also a good opportunity, even without having an FTA. It's a good opportunity for competing in Peru and be able to make business together. I want to thank you very much for your time, and let's do much more business than we are doing together, Peru and India. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Manuel, for sharing your business experience with India and also sharing us the existing line of business and also the potential areas where Peru and India can work together. In fact, also sharing us the strong points and also particularly the weak points which needs to be bridged to have more business between the two countries. We really appreciate. and also sharing us with the both from the export as well as the import perspective, what India can import from Peru to take advantage of the Peruvian manufacturing as well as other capabilities. Thank you very much. Friends, we would now be starting the question answer session. I would request all our participants to just press raise hand button on the screen so that we can identify just one piece of information as we are already having too much of the companies present today. Just kindly be brief and just kindly let us know for whom the query is raised. And one more information, just in case there are any particular information related to buyers, just kindly let us know in short. May I now invite Mr. Jagdish Parekh to raise his query, please. Mr. Parekh.
Hello, I am audible, sir?
Yeah, Mr.
I am audible, sir. Can you hear me? Hello?
Yeah.
Yeah. Hi to FIEO for a number of series of these webinars for the knowledge sharing. And my first question to the ambassador of the Peru, that whether the food industry in your country is how much developed, and as mentioned by him in the lecture, that any organic chemicals falling under chapter 28, 29, 30, 32 are there. I want to know the list of the genuine importers in that country, whether we can get the contact to them, because so far we have not been exporting anything to Peru. I want to explore that opportunity, number one. Number two, my question to Mr. Rohit sir, that he said that auto industry can be made hub in the Peru. I want to know whether the food additives and food chemicals can be also made hub to cater to the surrounding countries. This is my question, please. Please. Hello, I have completed my question.
No, it's okay. Manager sir would. Mr. Rohit, you can because first question.
Okay, I can answer to Rakesh. Yes, definitely. Food additives, food, everything comes part in that deal, and they already have FTA with all the countries for these products. So you're most than welcome. If you give me some specific details, we can find somebody who can do contract manufacturing for you here under your licensing, under your quota, or you can also come here and set up a small plant, which we can definitely help you. So both these possibilities exist here in Peru. Yeah, I pass on to Mr. Ambassador for the question about food industry.
Okay, I'm so glad, Mr. Jagdish Parekh, you wanted to, use the Peruvian market. Let me tell you, you might be aware that Peru produces excellent fruits and vegetables. Agriculture is their strength after mining, and they have organic fruits and vegetables, high-end vegetables, and they export to different parts of the world, including India. One thing where they are looking for collaboration is food processing industry.
Yes,
we can look at the opportunity. We can certainly try and explore with them, because our two countries have these seasonal complementarities. Fruits grown here are during a particular season when it is not grown in India. So that particular advantage exists. So we can mutually benefit in food industry. And so there are opportunities. Now coming to the chemicals and list of importers, we at the Embassy of India have a dedicated wing, economic and commercial wing, which is headed by a consular level officer, and you are welcome to write to them if you visit our website, or if you just send us through Facebook or Twitter. We will be able to respond to you with list of importers, and also to extend all possible support to ensure that you get right information and right partners.
Thank you. Sir, my request to FIEO that if we can get the list of contacts of Mr. Rohit sir and the ambassador of the India in Peru, so we can write to them directly. Can you provide us after this session or?
Mr. Parekh, yeah, Mr. Parekh, we will be, circulating the details of all our panelists and experts to the participants present today with their contact details. Definitely, we'll do that.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Next question from Manishi Vora.
Yes, my name is Manishi Vora. We are merchant exporters based in Mumbai. Now, I have two specific questions. One is about iron and steel products, particularly in the sector of, I understand that there is a huge agriculture-based industry in Peru. And so I wanted to know about what is the scope for farm and garden hand tools in Peru. That is number one question. And number two, I wanted to know about what is the medium of cooking, particularly because I also heard that there is a lot of, so must be a lot of non-electric medium of cooking, particularly maybe gas or paraffin. So I wanted to know what is the medium of cooking preferred by Peruvian people. These are the two questions I have. Thank you very much.
Mr. Ambassador, you want me to answer this? Anyway, I'll answer this. Yes, definitely. There's a huge market for hand tools for agriculture sector. Agriculture is one of the biggest sectors growing very much in Peru, apart than mining industry. But you have to definitely compete with China. Unfortunately, China's prices are much cheaper, but India also has got a lot of good products. So there's a lot of opportunities in the agriculture sector. And day by day, it's growing. And day by day, people are understanding that they want to have a quality products. Doesn't matter, a bit expensive, but they like the Indian side of the product. And about the cooking medium, yes, gas. Gas is one of the biggest thing here because Peru manufactures gas, one of the 5th biggest gas manufacturer in the world. So that is the important point. Paraffin, not much. Basically, it's gas today.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Mr.
Fine. Thank you very much.
May I now request the representative of, I think is Mr. Amit, please. Just sorry, Mr. Amit Maheshwari, please.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello. Yeah. Am I audible?
Yeah.
Yeah. Good evening, all of you. I just wanted to ask 2 questions. We are in the composite field from past 32 years. We just want to introduce our products in Peru. So is there any proper way or a path to communicate the industries which are based in Peru, so we can get their contacts numbers and email IDs, so we can directly communicate through it?
I'll answer this again if you don't mind. Yes, you can do that. Basically, INCHAM is a bi-national chamber, which you can be a part of INCHAM from India. Cost is almost nothing. Once you are the member of INCHAM, definitely we can give you all the companies who are around here, import sector and everything, which really help you to understand and whom you can deal directly. Now, you can also go directly, no two things about it, but INCHAM will give you some sort of help, know who's who, and who's the right partner for you. So we can also share you the INCHAM contact in New Delhi, where you can be a part of it, which really costs almost nothing, but it gives you a big hand into the Peruvian market.
Okay. Thanks a lot, sir. Thanks a lot.
Mr. Amit, in addition to INCHAM, you are also welcome to get in touch with the Indian Embassy in Lima, and you can send your details, the products that you want to market here. You can get the benefit from the Indian Embassy as well. we will try and coordinate with INCHAM and try to get you the required information.
Okay, thanks a lot, sir. I really appreciate. Thanks a lot. Thanks for a reply.
Thank you very much. May I now request Mr. Mansin Mohite for his query, please?
Hello, sir. Can you hear me now?
Yeah.
Good evening, everyone. My question is regarding the energy sector. During the discussion, I just understand regarding the solar energy or solar power. How about the oil and gas industry as well as the power industry? Is there any potential you can see in Peru?
Yes, certainly there is scope for business collaboration in the oil and gas industry and also in power sector. You are welcome to get in touch with the embassy. We will try and guide you in this matter with your specific interest within the segment of oil and gas as well as power.
All right, sir. Thank you. One more question is that regarding the language, sir.
Yeah, of course, language is Spanish, but we will try to help you. We have interpreters in the embassy. We will be able to help you.
All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you so much.
We have next question from Mr. Viral Parekh. Mr. Viral, please unmute yourself and raise your query, please.
Yeah. Yeah. We are into agriculture industry, but into milking farms. Like we take care of cattle and we take care of milking animals or other meat animals also. So we would like to enter into South American market, and is Peru the right spot for accessing the South American market? Herd management and stuff like that. Animal husbandry, milking, means optimization of milk from the milking animals and stuff like that.
Agriculture, as we already explained earlier, is a leading sector here. And in the dairy also, you can try and explore. We can certainly look for, the way you want to do here, whether you would like to have some joint collaboration, partnership with Peruvian companies or the region. Maybe this could be as a hub for, marketing your product in the region. We can certainly
please be in touch like UAE and other countries. We have our own 100% subsidiary, also in Africa. So same way in Peru also is possible, or we need to have a local partner there?
It's always better to have a local partner.
Very good, very good. How do I go about it? How do I ask the team to go about this? We have to connect with you.
The first thing that you can do is to write to the Indian Embassy here. Mr. Sanjeev Tandon is Counselor Commercial. Please visit the Indian Embassy Lima website. You will get the email addresses. You can send a detailed letter so that you get the response and guidance.
It is like in Africa we have COMESA region, in GCC, Dubai we have GCC. The same way, South American, is there any free trade in South America with Peru? How many countries would be we will get access to?
See, I think there was a slide that was shown there. Peru has almost 16 to 17 free trade agreements covering almost 50 countries. There is also Pacific Alliance, a regional cooperation here. So that way, if you are based in Peru, you have all the good access to several markets.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much.
Welcome.
May I now request representative from Jindal Medisert to raise his query, please?
Yes. Hello, sir. My name is Nitin Jindal. We are basically medical device manufacturer, and as Mr. Ambassador just told us in his speech that that there is a need of medical devices in Peru, and we are looking for collaborating with people in Peru We have tried in the past, but we have failed to get information about the registration process of medical devices in Peru. So if I can get information about that, it will be very good for us.
I would like to advise you to write to the embassy, and we will send you the detailed procedure involved in registering your product, and also we extend some advice to you how to go about it.
All right. Thank you, sir.
Welcome.
Thank you. Friends, we will now have a question from S3 Ideas Marketing, representative from that company. Representative from S3 Ideas Marketing, please. Please unmute yourself. I think we're not able to. We'll take another question from Mr. Nitin Singla from Nitin Singla.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yeah, Mr.
Hello. Yeah, good evening, everyone. I am Nitin Singla, and we are into manufacturing of refractories for steel processing for the last 20 years. So could you please share how is the steel market, steel processing industry in Peru? Is there scope for Indian exporters there?
There is market for steel products, but would you like to have some kind of a joint venture from, partnership with the Peruvian entrepreneurs?
I don't know much about that. Maybe, yeah, but we are mostly exporting finished goods that are used in refractories that are used for steel processing. So we can explore that option definitely.
Yeah. Once again, my advice to you would be to write to the embassy. We will get the details and provide you.
Sure. Okay, great. Cheers.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Friends, I think we have taken all the questions which were raised by our Indian companies. In fact, even if there are more questions, then they are most welcome to write to us. We will be sharing the details, contact details of our Indian embassy, as well as Ambassador Sir has mentioned, and also with the details of the other panelists as well as experts present today for their future reference and queries. With this, we are now we would be concluding the session, and I would like to mention here that the session has been quite useful, very beneficial. A lot of information has been shared by our eminent experts and panelists. They have really shared a lot of information that can be useful for Indian businessmen, both from the exports as well as imports perspective. As we understand from the addresses of the speakers as well as experts, there exists a lot of complementarities between the two countries, and we must take advantage, and we must be more aggressive, and we must take a do it now attitude to take advantage of the emerging opportunities. With these words, I would like to thank again His Excellency Mr. Mandarapu Subbarayudu, Embassy of India Peru, who took his valuable time and agreed to have an interaction with Indian businessman at this time, and sharing us with the details. Sharing with us the details of the opportunities, and also ensuring that the support of the embassy is always there. We are sure, sir, you have always been, the embassy has been always very supportive, and the team has been quite dynamic in terms of responding to the queries. We are testimonials of that. I would like to also thank Mr. Rohit Rao, President of INCHAM, for giving us the support as well as giving us the assurance of future support as well as associations. Ms. Mariana Garland, particularly the President of Maquinarias, for sharing her time and sharing her insights. Mr. Manuel Origgi, Director of Committee of Trading of RIM. Mr. Suranjan Gupta, Executive Director, EPC India. Mr. Vinny Mehta, Director General, ECMA India, for sharing the very comprehensive presentations on the sectors by both of our Indian officials. I would also like to thank our Vice President, Mr. Kyal, for sharing his insight as also being a part, and also sharing all the valuable information, and also particularly all our members of the Federation who have joined in large number from all across the country. Any information, any particular information related to Peru, we would be very happy to respond. Just kindly send it to us. After the event, we'll also be sharing a feedback form. Do share with us and keep joining us in large number or in our future video conferencing and session. Thank you very much. Have a nice and good day.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.